Let me read you one of the most disgusting things I have ever read. Out of my own fault and my fault alone, I decided to look up regular show on Reddit. And one of the first things that popped up was sadly the unpopular opinion part. And it was regular show sucks. I get that this show isn't everybody's cup of tea and that, seeing all these wacky, weird characters doing these crazy things out of the most minute thing, like possibilities, isn't what everybody wants to see. But that's not how I operate. Let me read you one of the most disgusting things I have ever read. Simply titled, Regular Show Sucks. Here we go. Every episode follows a very repetitive formula. I really couldn't care less about the absurdity of what's going on when it's always, we went to go get chips and now we're fighting the demon chip lord. It gets so boring so fast. Also, other than Skips, Benson, and maybe sometimes Muscle Man, there's not a single character I enjoy. Mordecai, which is spelled wrong, and Rigby are insufferable. High Five Ghost is basically never a main character, and Pops is okay, but he's the same shtick over and over of his big, goofy laugh and overly happy personality. Oh, and I'm going to go back to Rigby for a second and talk about how he's always the worst. Why does anyone care about him? Why is he a main character? What about the fact Mordecai, spelled wrong again, had two separate love stories, both being the main focus for a lot of the episodes, and he ends up messing up both relationships in an unsatisfying way? What about the fact AJ, which I'm believing he means CJ, isn't instantly disappeared for the rest of the show as soon as she wasn't attached to Mordecai? Yeah, it's still spelled wrong. Even though she was in so many episodes. Not a single episode that I can think of was enjoyable, and I've watched a lot of it. I don't know why I did, because looking back, I was bored and almost the whole time and just wanted to see why everyone loved it so much. But I couldn't and never will. Now, obviously, I have a problem with this. I'm going to take apart everything he said and I'm going to break it down and I'm going to tell him why he's wrong. But also, we're going to look at other commenters and see what they have to say as well. He mentions the part about the repetitive formula and how, something so mundane as them wanting chips. So they go to get chips and now they're fighting a demon chip lord. Is repetitive, and I guess what he's saying is boring. So he says it gets boring so fast. And it doesn't. That's amazing. I'm sorry, but if you can do rock, paper, scissors so many times and tie several times, and then all of a sudden a black hole opens up and tries to suck up everything on the planet, I'm instantly hooked. I mean, if you don't know what's going to happen every episode, and you're just saying, hey, it's boring because it's just... I guess what he's trying to say is there's no real story to the episodes. And that's not always true. I mean, there's always something like this happening, which actually, for most people, they find that really enjoyable because they don't know what's going to happen in an episode. There is something that I do have to agree with, though. He says it in caps, that Rigby, that he is the worst. I mean, he is. That's his character. He's supposed to be like, he's a slacker, but there's not a lot of good things about him. He's all about himself. But as the show goes on, he tends to have more character growth. And that's what's great about his character, is you're supposed to say, hey, I don't really think this guy is the best. But if you can see him grow throughout the series, you're supposed to like him more. It's a good like juxtaposition of him and Mordecai, because Mordecai has a lot of the tendencies that Rigby has. He's a slacker, but when it comes to it, he can work hard. He can do what he needs to get things done, and he's motivated by relationships and by, well, not wanting to get fired. There are other points that he brings up within this that I don't agree with, and honestly are just kind of kind of stupid. But anyway, but the whole thing is, at the end, he says, not a single episode that I can think of was enjoyable. And I've watched a lot of it. I don't know why. I did, because looking back, I was bored almost the whole time. One of the arguments made within this thread is that why did you watch so much of this show if you didn't enjoy it? And then somebody else made the argument, well, if somebody just watched a couple episodes and said, I didn't enjoy that show, then someone would say, well, you need to watch more episodes to know. This guy has gone the extra mile to know that he really doesn't like this show. So I respect that, but I also don't respect anything he's saying. Now, my opinion isn't the only one that matters in this dilemma, in this argument. Let's read what other people have to say. I'm sorry to say, but you've been possessed by the wrong opinion demon lord. I know a guy who knows a guy that can help you. We'll talk to Skips about it. And then someone commented, every episode ever. Which is true. Yes, this is called stoner comedy. It's a variation on the old-timey vaudeville act where a straight man and a buffoon perform a simple task and get into wacky hijinks because they're both idiots. It's every Three Stooges short that was ever made, except they added an extra idiot to the mix. I mean, okay. I'm not gonna... I'd understand if you only meant the space episodes, which he's referring to the last season. Those were quite poop. He didn't say poop, but that's what we're going to say on this channel. The whole era of cartoons suck. The 2000 to 2010s, I'm guessing 2000 to 2010, were the last bit of good cartoons. I would largely agree with what they're saying there. Agree 100%. I mean, that's a whole agreement. I was actually dumbfounded at how bad the show was when I was watching it with friends. Nostalgia must have blinded me to the highest extent. At the start of your massive paragraph, I didn't know what show you were going on about. By the end of your massive paragraph, I didn't know what show you were going on about, but was quite sure I didn't care. In the end, everybody's allowed to have their unpopular opinion, and in this case, it's a wrong opinion about regular show, and why they think it sucks. I don't agree with it, and you probably don't agree with it, but if you do agree with it, that's on you. Anyway, thank you for tuning into this episode, and please come back for possibly more unpopular opinions.